There's something majestic about hymns played on a pipe organ. And this particular pipe organ is extra special. It's a very unique instrument with an intriguing story to tell. Our story goes back to the year 1665. In that year, the Duke and Duchess of York had a baby girl named Anne. Anne's father became king in 1685, and he was known as James II of England. But his reign lasted only 3 years until he was deposed because of widespread discontent over his efforts to re-Catholicize England. The throne was then taken by his nephew and son-in-law, the husband of Anne's older sister Mary, a Dutch prince known as William of Orange. William reigned until his death in 1702. And on the 8th of March 1702, at the age of 37, Anne was crowned queen. The reign of Anne was 12 years long. She was not in the best of health, so despite 17 pregnancies, she died without any surviving children. But her reign did bequeath to us one significant legacy. Under her reign, Anne became the first monarch of Great Britain. It was in 1707 that the union of England and Scotland created Europe's largest free trade area. The flag of Great Britain was the forerunner of the Union Jack flag we know today. When Anne was still a toddler, something devastating happened to London. In the year 1666, a devastating fire destroyed much of London. It's known as the Great Fire of London, and the rebuilding was still going on during the time Anne was queen. So what has the Fire of London got to do with our organ here in Te Aroha? Let us go now and talk to someone who knows the story behind this. Hello, Pat.
Hello, Ross. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Now, can you tell us about this organ? What's the story behind it?
Well, we believe that it was built during the reign of Queen Anne by about 1712. Now, at the time, London was being rebuilt after the Great Fire of 1666. And Queen Anne wanted to have 10 more churches built in London for the comfort of the people and the further establishment of the Church of England. And to go in the 10 churches, she needed 10 organs, and commissioned the best organ builder, Renatus Harris. So he built 10 organs for her.
And this organ is one of those 10?
Yes.
Wow, built in 1712, or at least...
Round about then, yes.
Wow, amazing. And then, what's the first record we have of this particular organ?
Well, the first date on it is 1769, when it was installed in All Saints Church, Bass Church in Shropshire. And they also have a record of it being installed then. So we don't know what happened to it between 1712 and 1769.
1769 was the year that James Cook first landed in New Zealand and made his historic journey up this river with 2 boats and 22 men in search of timber suitable for masts and spars. The very same year, the pipe organ commissioned by Queen Anne was installed in a church in Shropshire on the other side of the world. Captain Cook also discovered a superb and fertile land we see around us today. Such was his admiration, he named this river the Thames after the River Thames in England. This river is now known as the Waihau River, and this river goes through Te Aroha, 20 minutes away, where the organ is now installed in St. Mark's Church. So how long was it in this church in Shropshire?
Probably about 100 years. Okay. And then they decided that it was too small because it's only a chamber organ, and fundraised to put in a bigger organ. And one of the families that contributed most to the bigger organ was the St. Barb Sladen family. And as kind of recompense, they were given the little organ, which they packed up and stored in their loft.
So it lived in a loft for a while in England?
Yes.
And then how did it get sent to New Zealand?
Well, one of the Sladen daughters married a Waiho farmer and came to live here. And in 1925, St Mark's Church was being built, but they had no provision for an organ. And Mrs St Barb Wayne said, "We have an organ back home," and wrote to her mother to have it sent out.
Okay.
So it was shipped out to Auckland, where it stayed on the wharf because the vestry didn't have enough money to transport it down here.
So what year was it finally bought and installed in the church here?
That was in 1927.
Okay. And when was the church itself built?
So it was built in 1925, and it was built as a peace memorial church after the Great War of 1914-18.
So it was like a monument saying we want peace after such a horrible war.
Absolutely, yes.
And then what happened to the other 9 organs that were built by
Well, we don't know what happened to them. We've been unable to find any records. And the irony is that possibly they were destroyed during the Second World War in the Blitz of London.
So barely, little more than a decade after St Mark's was built as a peace church, after the war to end all wars, a larger war came along.
Yes.
And destroyed, it seems, all the other sister organs to that organ that's here.
Yes, probably. So if it hadn't come here, it might not have survived either.
Even though it's over 300 years old, it's still being used regularly. That's wonderful.
Yes, yes it is.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated.
Oh, you're very welcome, Ross.
Thank you. The story of the pipe organ at St Mark's is an intriguing one, and a very good illustration of a particular Bible prophecy. Paul spoke about Jesus' second coming, the day of the Lord, which would come unexpectedly like a thief in the night. Of that time he wrote this: "For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." Do you see that? Again, in the future, men will be looking for peace. And when they believe they've achieved this and are saying peace and safety, then again, sudden destruction will come. And the destruction was like the travail of a woman with child. In other words, it would be like the labour pains of birth, each contraction becoming more and more intense. After the horrors of World War I, the conflict described as the war to end all wars, there was a short time of peace. This church was built by the people of Te Aroha as a war memorial peace church. Queen Anne's pipe organ, at that time already 215 years old, was installed into this church in 1927. Then, barely a decade later, came a bigger conflict. The destruction and bloodshed in this war, World War II, far surpassed that of the First World War. Bombs rained from the skies, entire cities were reduced to rubble. It is believed that during that conflict, the other 9 sister organs were destroyed. Once again, around the world, we see the spirit of war is rising. Countries are rattling their sabres again, flexing their muscles, and there is a worrying increase in harsh rhetoric between nations. Will we see another major conflict? Jesus gave us the signs of his near coming, and one of the major signs was war. We read this in the 24th chapter of Matthew. "And ye shall hear of wars and rumours of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows." When we see these things come to pass, we are not to be scared or fearful. The world might appear to be falling apart around us, but we should always remember that Jesus warned us that these things were coming, and he is able to watch over us. Jesus said, "These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." John 16:33. True peace is found in Jesus. Jesus said we will have troubles in this world, but if we're in Him, we can have inner peace amid the storms around us.